Hey everyone, it's Ashley Little from Wholesaling Out of the Box, and today I'm joined by Cameron Peters and Sean Bowen, and we are here to talk to you about bridge loans. So to get us started, who wants to tell us what is a bridge loan and like why would you use it?
So we're going to build a bridge, right?
Yeah, we're building a bridge.
Yeah, building a bridge
for Santa
Somebody
Claus and
has-
Easter Bunny.
yeah.
Somebody has to make the dumb joke that we're building a
Yeah,
bridge.
building a bridge for Batman and Bruce Wayne, Santa Claus
There
and the
you
Easter
go.
Bunny, all of the above.
All inside jokes. You guys never know why. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about the first bridge loan being the one that we took over an existing mortgage subject to, right? That was from another episode that we had with you guys. But
that's actually going to be next week's episode. So
okay.
You guys will hear it in a week.
Whenever you hear it. So basically what we did is we came in, we took over this mortgage and used it as a bridge loan to come in for the first position, right? Which is basically just leaving that mortgage in play. And then we came in with a rehab budget to put the house back together and then turn around and sell it. So what happened with that was that the owner actually couldn't sell the property for what was owed on it because it was too high, right? So after commissions and sales costs and everything else, like it didn't even cover her mortgage. So she would have had to have come out of pocket to the table. So we got that creative financing and we did the sub 2 portion of it. And then that's the bridge to bringing in the rehab side to where we didn't have to bring in like $145,000, but we did have to make those monthly payments. So let's just say that monthly payment was like $1,000 over the next 6 months, right? So basically we got to bring in money to the table of roughly 145 grand for about 6 grand, right? And then on top of that was a rehab budget. So that was where we're partnered up with somebody that brought their rehab to it. They did the rehab side of it. So what's the return on their $50,000 they brought in for reno, the money they make versus the money that we brought in, and then ROI on the money that we got? Like, here's where these are talking about bridge loans that can get, I mean, think about a return here. If you bring in and you put $6,000 to the table and you make $10,000, like that's a pretty decent return, right? So same thing goes to the other side of that is like, if that person brought in 50 grand and they walked away with, let's say 20, like that's a hell of an ROI in a 6-month window, right? So when you start looking at this from a return on investment standpoint, big numbers are coming out, right? But the creativity side is understanding how to structure these to where you know what it's considered as a bridge loan, right? Like, how do I gap? How do I bridge? How do I Easter Bunny and Santa Claus to meet each other in the middle? How do I get this to happen to where I can join each one of these and make it work as a deal, right? So 2 things happen. You're helping the seller, right? You're helping yourself. And then the people that you're bringing into the table are making money as well, right? So it could be yourself or you can bring other partners in, but that is a really good example of one that wouldn't have worked if we didn't do it creatively. The seller would have been out money, right? Or they might have lost the property. And this was actually a VA loan. So they would have lost their VA benefits, right? Like that doesn't play well. Like, they don't play around with that stuff. So you lose that. That's a lot of loss. It's almost like free money. So yeah, I think that's a really good example of one bridge loan.
Yeah, that kind of wasn't my question, but it's okay. So, and I'll try to describe it to you in like pictures. Like maybe Luna can make the picture pretty. Yeah. But imagine like there's a canyon. You're at the Grand Canyon. You're on one side. The sale of your house is on the other. Okay. Now you could go all the way down and then walk across and then climb all the way back up, which is what you would have to do if you're trying to like fix it up and rent it out and get caught up on your mortgage and all of these steps and then sell it and pay the commission just to get to the other side. But if you use a bridge loan, you can take that little sky bridge from this end of the Grand Canyon to that end of the Grand Canyon. And how much easier is that? So that's the idea with the bridge loan here. You're bridging the gap between the beginning of the process and the end sale. And that could be via funding, or it could be via resources. Like it's a lot of things that are involved in that. So hopefully that's a little bit of a simpler, easy explanation. But Cam, as like, if I have a house and I am underwater on the mortgage, or like I'm just trying to sell in general, but I need more because I want to pay off my student loans and pay off the mortgage. why is this bridge loan compelling for me? Why would I do a bridge loan?
So in that instance, I'm actually at a loss.
Okay.
You're not supposed to confuse people during the podcast.
You guys haven't noticed Ashley likes to figure out how to like run us over every now and then.
Well, that wasn't meant to be, but okay.
All right, so ask the question again.
Okay. Try it again.
All right. So I have a house that is in its current state, like it would sell for $130,000. But I have a mortgage for 120 and I got about 40,000 in student loans. And I want to be able to pay it all off with the sale of this house. So why is this bridge loan, like why would I do that? Why would I give you the deed to my house right now to like for you to sell it again in 6 months? Like, why is that beneficial to me as the seller? Isn't it just beneficial for you because you don't have to bring money to the table?
It is. I would also say it's beneficial to you if you're, I know you said not quite underwater, but maybe definitely struggling to make those payments or struggling to keep up with the house, then it would make sense for sure. Normally we find sub to bridge loan folks that want to sell that way. They really just want to walk away. Maybe they want a little money, but they realize that in the current market, they can't just walk away from it. They'd have to let it go back to the bank and they don't want to ruin their credit. So I think that answers the question, but you spun me around for a second.
Yeah, it does. And then Sean, why, like you as the investor are coming to me and you're telling me that you can give me 150,000 for my house, but not for another 6 months, or you can give me 100 tomorrow. Like,
yep.
What's the thinking in that? Why can't you give me 150,000 today?
We're gonna have to show you the numbers and how they play out based on what we're going to sell it for, what we're going to rehab for, and then what's going to be left over at the table while we're making those monthly payments, while we paid closing costs on the front end, and all the numbers that collectively come together at the end to show you why this is beneficial to do it this way instead of, well, if you pay $100,000 based on the formula you just gave us, if you're $100,000, but then you're short some cash, then why do that? Why make it short? Why not allow it to make that money? It's just going to be in a longer time frame to where it still works for you, right? You're making money. It's longer down the road because if you go the other direction, it doesn't make you money. So we're trying to give examples of how this is beneficial to both sides and not just one-sided, not just to the investor's benefit. So and then the other part of this we were talking about before was like in the instance of a VA, you don't want to lose that ability, right? Like that's a massive, almost like free money scenario. So if you don't go this route, do you lose the home and then you lose all your VA benefits? Because that's going to really affect you in the future versus this 5-month window of time that you don't have the money today, but you will have it in the future and you will have all that other money available as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think where Sean and Cam were leading but didn't quite get there is that with bridge loans, I mean, I thought I asked very clear questions, but whatever, guys. It's fine.
Must be the neck twitch.
Yeah, my neck twitch. You'll learn more about that in the next one. It really did hurt though. I forgot where I was going here. Oh, so the whole point here is that with a bridge loan, in the beginning, the house may be worth $100,000, but by the time you as the investor are done with it, it's going to be worth a lot more, enough for you to be able to pay off that original mortgage, pay off the rehab loans, maybe give the seller a little bit more, and make profit yourself. So that 6 months is just like seasoning time. It gives you that extra oomph that goes into the house to be able to make more money all around, if you play your cards right and you actually pay attention to that while you're rehabbing. So how creative can you get with bridge loans?
So I would say first that when you re-explain that, now I get it totally. But two, I would say to keep a bridge loan simple, it's really just some money, because you can't get from point A to point B, which kind of goes back to Ashley's Grand Canyon sort of analogy, right? And so a bridge loan can be as simple as when you do a BRRRR, or if you follow the buy, rehab, refinance, rent,
No,
repeat.
rent.
I always screw that up. See, I always screw it up. That's why I don't do it. But
Buy, rehab, refinance, rent, repeat.
okay. So if you follow that strategy,
No, wait, I did that wrong too. Hold on.
either way, they
I
know.
got confused by, hold on. Buy, rehab, rent,
Rent.
refinance, repeat.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, it's as simple as, Cam, what process did you just do? But see,
Yeah,
I don't remember
literally.
what happened.
Like a month ago.
Yeah. So when you follow that, you're essentially, getting a bridge loan. And as the past one that I'm working on right now, you go and talk to your conventional lender, and it's kind of a funny conversation, because you're talking to the conventional lender now that you're going to refinance with, and they're understanding what you did, and they're understanding that what they're seeing is private money. So Coastal Capital Group in this instance came in and funded the purchase price of the property, right? I funded the rehab. Now I'm going to refinance that and give that money back. Of course, there was interest paid, just like with any other loan. And the conventional loan officer that's talking to me like, Cam, this is a good deal. Like, but I'm not understanding, why did you pay this high interest rate that you're paying here for the short-term loan when you just could come to us and get us to close it? Okay, well, that's a simple question, and this might help you with bridge loans. Is, what would you require me to put down for that? How much money would you require me to put down toward the purchase? 25%. That's the going rate for an investor loan. Okay. Do you understand what I put down for this? Yeah, I see that here. Okay, why would I do that? Well, you're going to pay that high interest. Okay, so let's tally that interest up and then tally your down payment up. Oh, you're keeping more of your own money. Yeah, you get it, do you? Yep. That's something that you talk to the conventional lenders and they're like, whoa. And I'm still coming back to you and getting this good rate, but that is the bridge loan. I needed that money for this period of time, secured by real estate, and I'll give it back to you with some interest. And Sean is dying over here, apparently.
I know, if you're watching the video, he's really struggling.
Jesus.
But
I was laughing so hard about that. I'm choking.
That's another example of how a bridge loan helps you with another strategy, right? So I think we have some other examples, but anytime you're doing a BRRRR, you're essentially using a bridge. Anytime you're using hard money, you're essentially using a bridge. So it's any way that the funds are needed to help you get from point A to point B with a project.
Okay. And how, like, when you guys are evaluating deals, how do you know when something is going to be a short-term bridge loan and you want to use that on that property, or a long-term subject to owner finance, whatever, when you're looking at the deals?
Yeah, so we'll play that out in the Excel sheet world and break that down on numbers to where we've got two different sheets that we do it with. So we've got a long-term buy and hold sheet. We've got a short-term fix and flip sheet. So we can type numbers in and we can see what L or loan to values are, or LTVs, and we can see what percentages are return on money. So it's very calculated. And I guess the answer to that is deciding which one of those is going to be the best route for the seller. Obviously matters for us too, but what works for the seller in order to help solve their problem in order to keep this a deal. So two sheets that we use for running numbers.
And do you guys kind of have a threshold, not just for what helps the seller, but what helps you as investors? So what is your threshold for, like, okay, so this, I could make 25,000 in 6 months, or I can make 35,000, 40,000 over the course of 20 years. Like, and what is your threshold there to decide, okay, is it worth it? Because of course a rehab, you're doing a lot. That's a lot of time and effort that goes into that over the course of 6 months, but then you're done. Whereas fix and flip, or excuse me, a buy and hold, it's not as much time and effort. Maybe a little bit in the beginning when you're first getting it set up, but otherwise it's a pretty simple process compared to a rehab. So how do you know, like, what's going to be worth it for the time versus the time value of money?
Ooh, that was a word I was going to go for.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cam.
I think it's heavily asset dependent. I think the asset is what determines that. And what I mean by that is, are we looking at a single family house that we could buy for, let's say, 150 and resell for 260, 280 after a rehab? Are we looking at that? What rent is that going to bring, or what income is that going to bring long term if you took it down, right? And the answer is, if you're paying 150, 160 in that range, a small single family house, it's probably not going to bring the rent that's going to make that for you, right? I would be looking for rent much past, $2,000 a month or so. And that's probably not likely. Whereas if you're looking at an asset where you're buying closer to the 100,000 or less mark, right? And you're seeing that it's a 3-4 bedroom bath, whatever it is, and can bring back rents of $1,500 a month. That's your asset that maybe you consider holding it a little bit longer. I think it's heavily dependent on the asset and also the location. If it's an area where you see the neighborhood growing and it's a solid neighborhood, and people obviously desire to live there, they're shopping near there, then all that maybe is something you want to hold on to. But those are also benefits for flips as well. So I don't know, maybe Sean, different insight here, but to me it's heavily dependent on the asset, and there's not a hard rule. I wouldn't think past we have some simple rules of, we don't want to buy anything older than 1940, and we don't want to buy anything with extreme foundation or termite issues. We do have some hard rules, but most of the time it's pretty wide open if it's not breaking those couple rules or going over a loan to value that's acceptable, obviously.
Yeah, I think short and sweet for my end of it, and just for the years that we've been doing it, I think my biggest concern is what ROI am I going to get on my investment, right? So do I want that
ROI?
Return on investment. So what is that return I'm going to make in an annual, because everybody's looking at, like, if I put $50,000 out and I get a 10% return, and over a year I get $5,000 back. But if I put $50,000 out and I get my 50 grand back plus 20 grand I get in 6 months, damn, that's a hell of a return. But what vehicle did I do it in? Did I do it inside of a tax deferred, tax exempt? Like, all this kind of stuff matters, right? So I think it's a broad question. And I think to narrow it down is, it depends on the person that's doing the investing. What do they want their long-term strategy to be? What are their capital gains consequences? What do they want for their, I call it the freedom number? How much money do they want coming in every month/year to allow you to have this freedom of time, right? Because money is working for you. Then, of course, like Cam said, asset-based. Like, what is the asset and where? How old is it? Are you going to put a lot of money into it? What's the return it's going to get? So all that kind of stuff really matters into the time frame of which you're going to make your money, right? So does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
cool.
I don't know if you guys did the math, but I was very stuck on this, like making 20,000 from that 50,000 in 6 months. That's 80% APR. I don't know anyone who's going to turn down 80% APR. Right. Like, give it to, like, if you can guarantee that, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just it. Like, recognizing the return.
Yeah.
So, and it's beating the stock market, right? Everybody's talking about how to get their best returns, there's different asset classes. I guarantee you real estate's a very safe one on top of a few other ones, but that's the one we know the best. And that's the one that we're really good in.
Yeah. Okay. So going into paperwork, how do you structure these? How is everyone protected if you're doing a bridge loan with subject to? I think this is a good time to bring in overmen with this. Like, how do I know you're going to make my mortgage payments? If the deed isn't your name, why wouldn't you just take it and let the mortgage company foreclose on me? Everything like that.
So all the paperwork involved in this clearly states that we're going to make this payment for you. If we don't, then we got to get the property back to you. And then clearly stating that we're going to have to pay this off because there is a lien on it. So a first position lien that they already have, knowing that the payoff is X amount of dollars. In this case, we'll just use the 140. And then we protect ourselves with a second deed of trust for the amount of money we're bringing in for rehab. So on top of that, we're going to add in the monthly payments that we added to making that mortgage payment for you, and then return that to us, right? So safety wise here would be deeds of trust that are recorded that say when we go to sell the property that we can't get any money until we pay off, one, the original thing that we said we were going to do, which is the first deed of trust that we took over for you. And then the second one being is what we recorded for ourselves as security, saying that when we sell the property that we're owed this bare minimum. And then of course, whatever's left over, right? In this scenario, let's just say there's 50 grand left over. That's what's coming to us after we had no choice whatsoever, but to pay off those existing liens. And that's for any lien that goes against the property. That's security, right? Whether that's a deed of trust, whether that's a affidavit, a memorandum, something that says it clouds title and it has to be paid in order to move forward with the process of us collecting any money. So that would be security, is having the DOTs, which is the deed of trust, having any judgments or liens that maybe were encumbering the property when we took it over and we knew it. We were willing to pay those at the back end of it as well, and paperwork that was signed for that, and knowing like we can't go anywhere with any money until we're done paying off any debts that are owed against the property. So we can't get freely just walking away.
Okay, good example or good explanation. And then I want to get into a couple of examples. The first one that I'll talk about is one that Sean mentioned with the VA loan. And so on that one, that ended up being really, really good and really special because she was over leveraged. She was not going to be able to sell the house as is. And she just really needed help, especially because she had just gotten new duty assignments. So she was gone. Like she wasn't even here for that at that point. And so we came in and we took over the loan subject to, and we made the payments for 6 months. We partnered with someone else who had the rehab budget and the know-how. And so they were able to come in and only bring in like 50, 60 grand and able to pay the rehab as opposed to 200 grand to buy the house and do the rehab. So they came in and did that. And they already had a buyer in mind for this property. And it was someone in a wheelchair. So as they were doing the rehab, everything was made totally handicap accessible. Doors were all wider to fit the wheelchair. The sinks and counters were all a little bit lower so that he could go up to wash his hands, wash his face, everything. So it made it very personal to be able to make it fit for the person that was buying it as well. And the people that were buying the house, they wouldn't have gotten that kind of deal if they had gone to someone and asked to have a house built for them that made sense and was accessible like this. So it really worked out. And the seller walked away, no issues with her credit. I think she walked away with a little bit of cash. And we walked away with money for the rehab and the fix and flip too. So all of it, everyone was happy, and it just really worked out well for everyone involved. And that's ideally what you're trying to do. And not everyone is going to end up like that, but it's definitely one of our better success stories with how it ended up. She thanked us a lot, said it was super smooth. Once we took over, she didn't really have to think about it at all. We were paying insurance, we were paying utilities, we were paying the mortgage payment for that 6 months, roughly. It kind of took a little while, and the sale had to season for the bank to do the conventional loan, but all of it was taken care of. She didn't have any worries. She was able to go out and buy a new house with her VA loan and at her new station. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool to be part of on both ends, from the end buyer being the handicap accessible and them having a home built for them, and then taking care of the seller to help them from a VA standpoint. Like all of it was really cool to be part of.
Mm-hmm. So then last example is Sean. We're working on one right now where we didn't have to put any money down. So it's sort of a bridge loan. We were talking about this, debating on if it would be considered that or not. I think yes, even though there's no money being loaned, because it's bridging that financing gap like we talked about. But Sean, if you want to kind of talk about this one too.
Yeah, so real quick, we did one of these where it was a piece of land, and the lady wanted like $120,000 originally, and it was supposed to be two separate lots is how it's deeded. And the way we worked it was, well, we can't give you the 120,000, but we could give you like a $40,000 cash offer. She was like, no, it's way too low. And then we said, well, why don't we do it to where you just hold back the paper? We'll give you $90,000, but we'll do it in 12 months. Because another hurdle that she brought up as far as an objection was that she didn't want the money in a 1-year time frame, because she didn't want to pay the short-term capital gains. She wanted to be able to have the long-term capital gains and a lower tax rate. So that was another issue that she wanted. So that also worked in for this offer. So we didn't give her the full amount, but we gave her $45,000 more because we were able to take the financing that she was giving us, which is $90,000 over a 12-month span at a 0% interest rate, right? Like that is incredible as a deal.
No money
So
down except for closing costs.
except for closing costs. So both companies made out really well to the fact of, okay, we're going to get you what you want. It's going to be in a year's time frame, but if I do that, I can't bring money to it and close it and give you money down. Like I can't do that. So I can give you this money, but it would just be over a time span, and it goes into your other request, which is like, you don't want this capital gains issue. So another really good example of the owner gets what they want closer to what they want. And we get a great deal where we're not having to bring a lot of money to the table. And then we own an asset, right? And then this is actually one of those assets we're working on to where hopefully we're going to be able to build 2 new construction homes, right? And so let's say we have those lots for $45,000 each and we sell them for 60. That's a $25,000 spread roughly. And quick numbers would say you're going to make almost like 40 grand, right? But you're taking this existing financing, just redoing it again and rewrapping it, adding on top of it, but you didn't have to bring that much to the table. So really good for, again, tool in the tool belt, knowing how to structure it, helping the seller get what they want or closer to what they want. Obviously, you as the end buyer getting a great deal and structuring it for 0% interest, no monthly payments, and it all accrues or it all comes due at the back end of the paper when it's 12 months in a day, right? So really, really good example of structuring deals. And believe it or not, if you know how to structure it, they're out there all the time. Another one we have was a student down in North Carolina that actually did this, and he structured a killer deal. He only had to bring like $5 grand to the table for them, and his closing cost was like $2 grand. And he got that financed over 15 years for almost zero. I think it was 0 interest rate. And his monthly payment was like $400. So like another screaming deal of creative financing that the seller's happy and the buyer's happy and like everybody's making money. So understanding how to create these and how to structure them and write up paperwork and calculate, amortization charts over so much time and all this kind of stuff is where you really need to get into the deep dive of structural and then sub twos and knowing how to put the paperwork together and be creative. But yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good deal.
Yeah. Okay. Cam, Sean, any final thoughts on owner finance? Or nope, that's not what we're talking about. Bridge loans.
No, deep dive it. Like we talking about before, just get into this and understand it. Get into the books that talk about bridge loans, get into the podcast and the YouTube channels and like submerge yourself to understand it so that you can start to learn it and start to use it. Right. And that's just a very big part of this. Is like a lot of people listen and learn, but do they actually take action on it is the problem. And they don't. And that's where the fail is. You can learn all you want until you actually do something with it. And that's where it matters.
Yep. That's my wrap up. Yep.
Isn't that from an old cartoon? I know you say it all the time, but I've heard it on TV or something. I'm going to look it up.
What's considered older than 1995?
Well, I was born in 94, so like older than that.
Yeah, okay. And on that note, we're done.
All day, every day, chop to the throat, you old bastard.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. No, we're nice most of the time. Some of the time. Anyway, yeah. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you are interested in learning more about our program, about anything that we talk about, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, find us at our website, www.wholesalingoutofthebox.com. And as we mentioned earlier, we've already recorded next week's episode on subject 2, so we know it's going to be good. And be sure to check that out. Other than that, thanks to you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.